This is the Environmental Protection Commission, regular meeting, Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024. This is a regular meeting, and the first item of new business is EPC 35-2023, 0 Great Island Road, parcel 23A, Town of Darien, to construct a paved access way, walkways, drainage, walls, and other related features in regulated areas proximate to Gorham's Pond. The property lies along the east side of the Goodwise River Road, across from the intersection with Rings End Road, and it's identified as map number 58, lot number 1AA, aka parcel 23A. The zone is R1, and it is approximately 1.3 acres. Rick?
Mr. Chairman, this application for the activities you described is on this evening's agenda for acknowledgement of receipt and acceptance, and for a determination as to the necessity of a public hearing or not. Staff has visited the property and will be preparing a brief request of information needed to move forward with the application, but I look forward to hearing what you all have to say, and take into consideration your comments and install them in our letter to the applicant.
Yeah. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I walked over there. The only question I would have, when I looked at their utility plan, I couldn't determine where the outflow was from the infiltration system. You know, on an overflow, it's got to go someplace, and I'm not that engineer savvy about it, but I couldn't figure out where it go, and it'd be nice to see, you know, on a big storm, those things take capacity, then they go off into some area of water eventually. And I understand, if I read the narrative right, it's not going to affect anything inland that we handle or that. But still, it'd be interesting to show on this, you know, where it's going to flow to. So that would be my only question. There's 3 of them, and I didn't see it, but it might be there. I just can't quite figure it out.
No comments or questions.
The only comment that I have is relating to the plantings. You know, there are several mature trees, evergreen trees that are being removed, and there's a planting plan, and a lot of different trees are going in. And on the planting plan, it states that, you know, the location of the plants and the trees might have to vary, you know, once they start going, which I totally understand. You know, they might run into rocks or whatever. But it also says that the species type may vary. And the only thing that I want to ensure is that if the plants are changed, that they are natives, and I would rather see straight natives rather than some of the nativars that we saw on the list. I just think it's a municipal property, and you know, a lot of people are going to be walking through there, driving through there, and I think the town would be setting a good example to have straight natives in that area. It sort of would serve as an educational component for the public as well. So that's my only comment.
Laura?
And I think I only saw trees on there. I was wondering, typically we see other like shrubs and ground covers and other things on planting plans. I guess my question is, did they consider are they just replacing trees to replace trees, or?
I think there were shrubs.
Oh, were there?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I missed something.
Yeah, that's in here.
Okay.
No extensive trees and shrubs.
Trees and shrubs. Okay.
Okay, I only have one comment, and it has nothing to do with EPC. They have 2 big pillars of granite on either side of the entrance. I like those. Okay, and I'd like to have them preserved somewhere at the entrance. I'm sure you have the machinery to pick them up and put them nicely and plant them, because it sort of makes an elegant entrance there to a huge property. But I'll leave it in your good hands. Okay.
I have one other question.
Sure.
I was just curious if there had at all considered any kind of pervious or more porous surface cover instead of just straight asphalt, if that was like an alternative that was considered in the assessment.
For what, for the paved area?
Yeah, like the walkway. Specifically, I was thinking the walkways.
we can.
I know it's more maintenance and, yeah. but-
Okay.
Okay, the other question on the table that Rick asked is, public hearing or not?
There'll be a public hearing at the P and Z.
P and Z, I can't tell you, there's gonna be the public hearings are scheduled for P and Z because of coastal management, et cetera. This honestly is just not that, it's a major change to that area, but it's not that big a deal in terms of EPC because it's far away from the wetlands and the water course. So my personal opinion is we don't have a public hearing. So you're no?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, so no public hearing then. We don't need a vote on that, so, okay. That's it. Thank you, Ed, for taking your time. Yeah. Okay, the next item of business is EPC 36-2023, 670 Hollow Tree Ridge Road, DACG2 LLC, to maintain a deer fence proximate to wetlands and water courses. The property lies along the south edge of Hollow Tree Ridge Road, approximately 650 feet west of Oxbridge Lane, and is identified as map number 7. Lot number 50, the zone is R2, and it is approximately 3.158 acres.
Chairman, this application, which pertains to the installation or maintenance of a deer fence on a portion of the property in the upland review area, has made its way to the agenda this evening for the purpose to acknowledge receipt, establish acceptance in the statutory time clock, and to determine if a public hearing is necessary. I've been to the property. It's been an ongoing compliance issue, and that's how we determined that there was I wouldn't say compliance issue, but we're doing compliance inspections, determined that the fence had been installed in the buffer without a prior permit, and the option was given to remove the fence and/or come in for a permit application to perhaps gain consideration of the fence itself. So I've been to the property. We'll be generating a list of information. We're going to request that they resolve all the outstanding compliance issues. They have to come up with a planting plan for some other portions of the property as well. But I'll also have a list of information, and again, welcome anything that you guys can add, that we can add into their letter tomorrow so they can be prepared for a future meeting.
Start on that.
Okay, Lauren?
Okay. Yeah, I took a walk out there earlier today. All the fences that everyone has back there makes me a little sad. And I think, I think there's some opportunity to improve the area. So hopefully a pretty strong planting plan. What type of fence are they going to have? I didn't see the specifics on the types of fencing that they're going to have in there.
Well,
So
we'll
I'm
have the
curious
details,
of
but the
all
fence
that.
is installed, the fence is there.
Yeah, there's some interesting ones too. That like a fence that's built on top of rocks on the one side. Is it going to be something like that, or is it just going to be a regular deer fence with
It's the one along the rear plane of the house, beyond the pool. It's a deer fence
Yeah.
on steel posts, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty standard.
Okay.
What they have there.
So I think for consistency, we can ask for all the same things we asked for with all the other fences, the rays and all the things, even though we all on the record don't love fences. So, yeah, and I was hoping that they'll include some larger trees in the planting plan where they can. That's it.
So my question is it was mentioned that the arborvitae are newly installed, and I'm wondering, did they replace something?
The ones along the rear plane of
The
the
ones
property?
that are being protected by
I've-
the deer fence?
They were
In other words, were
installed.
other trees taken out?
It was an EPC permit, I think in 2021, prior to me being employed here, and there had been an encroachment, and as part of the encroachment, one element was the evergreens in that proximal location, and there's supposed to be some additional planting in front of it as well, which has all been the compliance issue still remains, that they have to go back and make sure that they have everything that was previously permitted that was installed.
So those evergreens were installed as per the permit in 2021?
Yes,
Okay,
they still have to have a certification and everything, but there was
Okay.
also a second tier of planting that was supposed to be installed as well.
right, in front of it probably? Right, okay. I mean, and, you know, it's kind of academic now, but of course I would want to know how the fence was installed. I mean, if it were going in, I would want to know that, but it's already done, so that's sort of academic. And then my last question is, and I think Bill had mentioned this also, that pipe that's coming from the road that drains in that area, what is that draining? It's draining from the road.
There was an existing easement that, not an easement, it was an existing pipe there that was in fact from the road. That, that, I think it's a corrugated metal pipe, if I'm not mistaken. And that was existing. And what they did is through this process of reconstructing the property, they maneuvered part of it around the house.
Okay.
So there was, that is part of the road drainage system.
So do we have a sense of how much water is on a regular basis draining into that sensitive area?
No.
Okay. And then lastly, you know, I think I had mentioned that I was looking for the prior approval for this project, and none of them are on the town website. Is it possible to get?
I was just started to do some research on that, so.
Okay. It seems like
and
when the
I
town
found-
website, you know, changed to the new website, we lost all our agendas and minutes from our commission.
I think they probably,
They're somewhere?
they established a date in which the new website forward is on there. I can look back to see.
Okay. Because I would like to see what that said.
I don't believe the overall, I mean, at least initially what I've looked and seen is, I don't believe that there had been a prior EPC permit for the development of the parcel, because it looked like they were showing everything being 50 feet away.
Right.
And then there had been an encroachment, and the only thing that the application focused on was the, some of the
Plantings.
replanting
Yeah.
in the demarcation feature, and again, 2 tiers of planting that was in there.
Okay. That's all that I have.
No comments.
So yeah, when we get the original requirements, that'll be very helpful. Because obviously, there's a section there that's right up on the wetlands. And that lawn is freshly fertilized, you know, it's beautiful, all that fertilizer's on there, they must have just done it before we arrived. So it would be nice if they put a barrier planting in that area particularly, where it's very close to that, the wetlands. It's a great wetlands. Yeah, it's really active. It looks, you know, full of good vegetation, full of water. I am worried that it may be fenced all the way out from any animals actually getting in from not just from them, but from other people around them. But anyway, that's what my most, and if there was a demarcation layout on that original proposal too. I remember going to that property when it was about to be built as part of the EPC. But I can't remember the details, what we ended up requiring them to do. So that would be helpful. Thanks.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay, moving on to old business, EPC 17-2023, 10 Holly Lane, V Chase and D Chase to construct pool, spa, deck, and other related features in a special flood hazard area proximate to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the west side of Holly Lane, approximately 700 feet north of Middlesex Road, and is identified as map number 9, lot number 120. The zone is R1, and is approximately 1.19 acres.
Chairman, the matter has been placed on the agenda. We've received correspondence from a representative of the owner, and they've withdrawn the application at this time. I think they'll probably regroup and perhaps submit in a future date, but as of now, they've withdrawn the
So it'll be
application.
a separate application.
Yep.
Okay. The next item of business is EPC 21-2023, 2 Harriet Lane, S. Pancanti and B. Tulesi, to construct an elevated condenser platform and related features within a special flood hazard and proximate to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the west side of Harriet Lane, just north of Tokenique Road, and is identified as map number 36, lot number 22. The zone is R1 half and is approximately 0.66 acres.
Chairman, the matter's been placed on the agenda tonight to acknowledge the receipt of correspondence withdrawing the application at this time. In the process of, the applicant's in the process of trying to generate the information that we laid out for them that is needed for this. But they've run out of time under the regulations. So it's been withdrawn. They'll resubmit when they get the information.
Separate application.
Separate application.
Okay. Okay, good. Moving on, EPC 29-2023, 55 Pembroke Road, M. Bismeyer Trust and D. Caro to install a deer fence, remove invasive plants, and install a collection of native trees, shrubs, and ground covers in and proximate to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the north side of Pembroke Road, approximately 1,625 feet east of Mansfield Avenue, and it's identified as map number 1, lot number 6, the zone is R2, and is approximately 1.95 acres.
Mr. Chairman, the application had, again, is for the fence and the extensive replanting of wetlands and upland review areas on the property. A great deal of testimony was provided to this commission at the October and December meetings of last year. If you recall, they, in response to inquiry by the commission, they've looked in detail at different types of fences, different types of installation techniques that are going to be less impactful than typical, or that we have typically seen. They had a pretty extensive replanting plan and management plan for the spaces they want to restore. Many of the plants being already deer resistant, but the fence is essentially to reduce the amount of deer graze on the property until they can get the plants well established. I think we also talked about that this has been subject to numerous applications, the development of this parcel, and some of the prior plantings that were part of the applications. Those previous applications had been pretty well grazed. As part of this application, they've gone back to areas that have been impacted, not all, but some, in some areas that have been transitioned to lawn and replanted with native vegetation. So I have a draft resolution for your consideration with conditions of approval. I'm available to answer any questions you may have. I'll be whatever help I can be.
I believe the commission members have received a copy of the resolution, draft of it. Any questions or comments? No.
I just had one, which I emailed to Rick, and did you think that was necessary to have in there?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, what Spain has talked about was post-installation maintenance. I looked back to what the commission had done previously, and perhaps in the 2020, 2021, they had added a condition that called for the landscaping professional, the architect or installer, and I took two examples that after the applicant's landscape architect, designer, whatever, shall inspect the plantings after a full growing season and provide a report to the commission staff on the status of the restoration and enhancement. So any dead plants shall be removed and replaced after one growing season. We could also incorporate
The invasive.
your
Yeah.
management of the invasive. So again, part of this plan is doing some pretty extensive invasive management, and
Right.
it is loaded with invasives, especially the hanging vines. But certainly you can add that condition if you see fit.
My concern was that the whole reason for wanting the deer fence is to protect the newly installed native plantings. And right now, there are so many invasives in there, and as I mentioned to the landscape architect, that she is well aware of that, many of these are difficult to eradicate. You dig them up or cut them down, and they might come back the next season. So my concern is that if the invasives then take over again and kill the native plants, the deer fence is there for no purpose really. You know, it's because it's not protecting the native plants that are now dead, that are now overgrown with these invasives. So I just thought it might be important to have in there that when I questioned her about it, she said that she would be coming back to cut them down or dig them out, whatever the case may be. But I thought maybe it should be as a condition.
Well, they're gonna have, obviously, removal of invasives is a multi-year,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
multi-year plan. So
Yes.
if they're serious about it, then,
Yes,
then,
that's
you know,
exactly
if they're
my
serious
point.
about, well, they're serious enough to put up a deer fence.
Yeah,
Okay, so it would make sense that they'd be serious enough then to, if they didn't care about the invasives, then we wouldn't see them, so.
right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and also the fact that, you know, they're, you know, putting in significant, you know, planting plan of natives, they'd want to protect them. So, yeah, that was my only concern.
Sorry, okay, Rick?
So
Okay.
to decide, you
Okay,
go add
so
that condition.
I assume Jim Millard got back to you with his commas and,
Whichever ones that he had commented
okay.
on, I made
You got it, okay.
the modifications.
Okay, may I have a motion to,
Sure, I'd like to move the permit to conduct regular activities for 29-2023 at 55 Pembroke Road.
well, have a second?
I'll have a second to approve EPC 29-2023.
All in favor? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the next one. EPC 30, 2023, 12 Stonewall Lane, B Shane and M Shane, to construct residential additions, drainage, and other related features proximate to the wetlands and watercourses. Property lies along the south side of Stonewall Lane, approximately 780 feet west of Brookside Road, and is identified as map number 5, lot number 9. The zone is R2, and is approximately 2.03 acres. Rick?
Mr. Chairman, the application is to do residential additions on this property, including an addition, a deck, a covered porch, and a garage expansion. The property lies along the south side of Stonewall, west of Brookside. The property currently supports an existing single-family dwelling, drive, utilities. Wetlands are generally confined to the western and southern portions of the property, including a small watercourse. The applicant, given the scale and the nature of the project, was tasked with demonstrating that the impacts on the regulated areas and areas of resource and other specific resource items is minimized or avoided, that they're utilizing measures to preserve water quality, addressing potential drainage impacts, and provided measures to mitigate for unavoidable impacts into the regulated areas or improve the overall conservation values of the property. We prepared a list of information. The applicant responded, and in general, site development plans have been provided. There's no direct wetlands or watercourse encroachments proposed. About 1,000 square feet of the upland review area is impacted. De minimis changes to grade are proposed. No significant trees or trees of value are impacted by the project. The overwhelming portions of the development are confined to the existing developed space in lawn. The project engineer went on to address the issue of water quality and drainage impact, and has come up with a plan that has since been endorsed by the town's consulting engineer that provides for taking the stormwater and infiltrating it into the ground. And with that report that was supplied, there's no adverse impact on drainage and adjoining properties. that, for the storms that we typically evaluate. Further to water quality, erosion control plan with the typical array of perimeter controls, tracking, pavement sweeping, etc. Alternatives have been evaluated through the process, and just a couple of them is relocating the stockpile areas out of the areas of regulation and relocating of the drainage system to avoid some trees of value on the property. At the request of the commission, they looked at mitigation and have come up with a really well-designed plan of planting along the perimeter of the wetlands and to provide a buffer to filter the runoff and to enhance the overall conservation values of the property. And I summarized for you, and you have got a copy of that plan and a complete list here of what they intend on adding. In additions, they're making provisions for the removal of what you've pointed out. There was some cut wood and debris that was back there in the back portions of the property. Reviewing the water course to eliminate any obstructions that are in there. And they are doing a visual demarcation feature, which in this case is some large stones being placed in amongst the plantings along that buffer. The applicant is here, the applicant's representatives are here this evening. If you have questions, I'm here to answer questions, and with that, I'll leave it to you.
Is the applicant here, you said?
Yes.
Hi. Gentlemen. Please identify yourself when you speak, and you can come up to the podium.
Hi, my name is Nick DeMeo. I'm the architect on the project. We have our team with us here, Alice, our landscape architect, and Kyle from B&B Engineering on the civil engineering team. We're happy to field any questions you guys have, but thank you, Rick, for a great summary of the project.
Okay, do you want to start?
Yeah. So I wasn't here when you did this thing, so maybe you already asked these questions. So you have the infiltration system, and then is that why the overflow of that is going down that long culvert and into the wetland area? It looks like, and hopefully I'm looking at the right diagram here. There's a pipe that goes from off the house and it drops out just prior to the wetland area?
That's the footing drain.
So that's the footing
That's the
drain.
footing drain, okay.
Yeah.
I apologize, I was not here for that last time. Okay, so there won't be much water, you have a estimate of how much water will be going through that on an average or whatever?
Hopefully there won't be any. Hopefully,
Okay.
so there's no flooding in the basement, but we haven't determined an actual value of how much we think would be going
Okay.
through there.
So do you have sump pumps as well that are part of that whole basement
No.
scene? Okay, this is just footing drains.
Mhm.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
There's a manhole cover that's outside the regulated area. Does that connect someplace underneath the regulated area, and what's the purpose of that manhole
So
cover?
the existing manhole, that's for the gate valve for the sewer line that's running down from I think it's Brook Street on the south end.
Brookside.
Brookside, yeah.
There's a sewer line that comes right through this property.
Yep.
Yeah,
And historically, it was installed many years ago, and I actually think with an EPC permit.
Yep.
But that's what we had them identify. I identified a location of that, and it shows the manholes, and actually goes down here, and I think takes a hard left
Okay.
towards Brookside.
and the project doesn't touch that, and
No.
it won't do that. Okay, thank you.
A lot of the issues that I brought up at the first meeting have been addressed, so that's good. I had wanted to know if the town engineer had signed off on the final impact analysis and design, and you said yes, that he
Yes.
has. My only other consideration is I love that there's a robust planting plan and ground covers and displacing some of the lawn. I think that's always a good thing, and the boulder demarcation. my only concern, my only comment, I should say, is just, you know, a lot of the plants on the list are, again, they're like those modified natives, and I'm just wondering if to really improve the conservation value of the property, if true straight natives were considered for any of those plantings. Because I know what's here is like, it's, you know, they're bigger flowers and more color and all of that, but.
Alice Eckerson from Eckerson Design Associates. Yes, we considered it, and there we just sort of have to balance what's going to be available and what's going to look nice for them, and so we can try to get as many true natives as possible. I always look for that first. But
I'm just, I just, that's kind of one of my things is just, you know, to support the pollinators and the birds and all of that. But I mean, it's good that there are lots of plants being installed and some of the lawn being displaced. I like that, and the ground covers seem to be native, pretty straight native for the most part.
Yes, and there is some clethra out there already. There's some other natives out there. It's hard this time of year for me to identify them. I'll know better next spring.
I just always will push for straight natives as much as possible. So that's my only comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Lauren?
Yeah, so I think my only thing on this is that I think I had probably made the suggestion the first time around that we just change the wording in the stormwater plan to say what the homeowner must do and not what we recommend that they do. So we require that they do these things. We just the wording so that that can be held accountable for that stuff. That's it.
Okay, anybody else? That's it. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? So we'll move on now to EPC
So
third.
the idea is in advance of the next meeting, I'll draft a resolution.
Draft a resolution for our approval. That's right.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So earlier in another, I guess the one before this one for Pembroke, we talked about adding, which I thought was a really great idea, a follow-up a year later about the plants being checked on, and I think that's a good consideration for other.
Well, typically when you hire a landscaper and you put in, that landscaper would give you a year's guarantee.
Yeah.
Rick, what do you think?
I mean, it is a good idea. It is probably more difficult from an enforcement perspective to obtain those. But I think because then it requires you to, even if you close out the project, you'd have to put a tickler in that you'd have to say, oh, a year from now, you're gonna have to do it. So, but it's not terrible. I mean, it probably is a very good idea. My predecessor did that for a year or two, it looked like. So we could do it. It is a good idea, because you want to see that, as long as you're reasonable, in saying, I wouldn't do it for 3, 4, or 5 years. I would do it maybe one growing season to see how it did. It's not a bad idea.
I like that level of accountability, because we're like, oh, go do a planting plan, and then we just,
Right.
we don't really know that unless you go do the inspections and things like that. There's this additional layer of follow-up.
Well, in order to close these out though, Rick, don't you go out and visit?
Well, do a final inspection. So, for instance, if you did a project and one of it was I was out there today on a project, they had to do significant planting. Went out and inspected the planting, triggered by the submission of the landscape architect's certification, and all those elements were there. This is going the extra step, saying a year from now, after you close it out, that you have to go out there and submit a follow-up statement from that landscape designer or landscape architect that he went out and looked at it, and it's substantially in compliance with the plan, remains substantially in compliance
That they
with the plan.
survive.
Right,
Yeah.
but would we want to just pick and choose the cases where we require that additional layer of follow-up based on, how big the concern is? Or do we just stay consistent and say, okay, maybe we do this for everyone going forward, and, or,
I would do it on, I think, on critical, on ones that have more, a more critical, planting element associated with it. Remember, since I've got here, we have firm planting plans. Prior to this, there wasn't a lot of, professionally conceived planting plans. So we've been much better in the last couple of years with these, a lot more accountability in making sure that it's done, it's inspected and certified. But this is certainly, it is a good idea.
Okay.
I think probably maybe to start, you do it on the ones that you think it's
The
critical.
larger,
Yeah.
the larger
Yeah.
issues, yeah.
Yeah,
That's not
okay,
bad.
thank you for letting me derail us for a minute.
Okay. Moving on, EPC 31-2023, 12 McLaren Road South. T. Mayor to construct an in-ground pool, patio, wall, drainage, and related features proximate to the wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the east side of McLaren Drive South, approximately 185 feet south of McLaren Road, and is identified as map number 7, lot number 34. The zone is R-1/2, and it is approximately 0.453 acres.
Mr. Chairman, this particular application was submitted in the prior month. The board and the commission and staff have provided correspondence to them or laying out what information is necessary to move forward with the application. There's been a response, and in general, I can report that the property is, and I think most of you have been there, is currently supports an existing single-family dwelling, walls, driveway, there's drainage, there's utilities that are on the parcel already. There are no wetlands on the property. The wetlands and watercourses lie on the adjoining property. What encroaches onto this property is the upland review area. This property is residentially developed, supports extensive lawn on the property. It has a number of fairly decent-sized trees. But I think an important element here is at that property boundary is an existing stone wall. And that provides a good hard demarcation dropping down to the adjoining property and where the regulated areas are. It's not in the flood zone, so the applicant was tasked with providing a site development plan showing that they've minimized the encroachments, that they addressed water quality, they've addressed drainage, and with an extra little kink in this one is also that what they're doing is not going to adversely impact the wall. And also what's being proposed to mitigate potential impacts or enhance the overall conservation values of the property. To that end, there was a site development plan that has been provided. Again, no direct wetland encroachments or watercourse encroachments. About 750 square feet of the upland review area is impacted. Overall grade change is low. It's probably in the range of 2 feet or so. There's a small length of retaining wall that has to be extended along with the property boundaries. There's about 11 trees that are mostly pine and hemlock that are going to be removed as part of the process. Project engineer did a drainage report, and to mitigate potential impacts by the increase in imperviousness, they've developed a drainage plan involving infiltrators. That water will be infiltrated into the ground, and as a result of doing that, if constructed in accordance with the plan, there's no adverse impact on drainage or the adjoining properties. Just as an aside, some of the patio space too is wide-gapped kind of pavers that are placed on the ground. And again, the town's consulting engineer on this one had endorsed the plan as currently proposed. Also, to protect water quality, there's an erosion control plan that's been proposed with a fairly typical collection of measures. They did come up with a planting plan with the recommendations of the commission to offset for the impacts on what was existing tree resources, although nothing there was terribly outstanding. They have come up with a plan to enhance the perimeter, particularly along the edge of that wetland buffer, to filter runoff, mitigate for the tree loss, and to additionally screen the abutters. And it involves a number of evergreens, but more in scale with what they're proposing along the abutters. But there's also a shrub enhancement element, buttonbush, steeplebush, highbush blueberry, et cetera. The only thing that staff would recommend is when you, with the planting plan, is that I would recommend bumping up the size of the plants that are being proposed, not going with the smaller 18-inch, but generally I do a 24 to 30 inch minimum size, so it gives them a better chance of survival, and to be more visual, that you're not going to be running it over with a lawnmower. The smaller plants sometimes do. But with that, the applicant is present this evening. I'm available for questions.
By the way, again, I'll follow up the one. We all have these iPads, etc. Is it possible, we have these huge screens here that I'm sure the town spent a fortune putting in, why can't we use them?
We could.
And, because, thank
We
you
have to
so
figure
much.
out how
I have my laptop.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you're much more advanced than we are. At least in my case. Okay, but you have the piece of paper here, and it's good. But if you had it on a screen here, I mean, I see it. Thank you very much. The commission sees it. The poor gentleman and the audience doesn't see it. And so my question is not to you, but to Rick, to say, can we go forward and say, and say, hey, the screens are available, and so that it's just better for communications, it's better for when we get on Channel 79, they can focus in on it individually and just as a point, going forward. So
Yeah, we can.
because does P&Z use these screens?
P&Z, I'm not so sure
Yes?
uses it, but
We use it for
I know
P&Z
the,
all the time.
Architectural Review Board.
Okay,
does.
great.
So just a little bit more in terms of having the equipment available. The big thing is the cables, that everybody always forgets. And, a little bit more in terms of setup.
Okay, but no, just to take the next step. So, I mean, you got me here. So, and so anyway, I'm sorry.
No worries.
All right, would you like to add anything to what Rick has said?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Andy Sumalides. I'm a principal and professional engineer with Lantec. I think Rick covered everything. I'm more than happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Sure, plant size.
24 to 30 inches, we're fine with that.
Not a problem?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's get that one solved quickly. I started last time.
No
Nothing?
questions.
No questions.
So the pool fence, it's not required because you're using the new kind of pool cover, but it's required because of the setbacks.
Correct.
So is the pool fence only going to be on that east side, or is it on the north and south side as well?
Sure. So it starts here
Okay,
on the south side, the whole east side, and then ties back in here where there's an existing fence on the north side there.
okay. All right, and.
But it's
okay.
for screening purposes, not for enclosures and safety building code
Right,
purposes.
right. Yeah, I know, I read that it was because of planning and zoning's
Correct.
requirement. And so you're putting some additional, I saw on Rick's plan and I see on your plan there are plantings. The copy that we have on here doesn't show them, but I just wanted to just verify that there are plantings going in on that east side.
Correct.
And is any yeah, no, yours shows it, but ours doesn't. Is any lawn being displaced with like ground covers, or is it just like kind of like some straight?
Some straight shrubbery along that fence line.
That, okay.
That's what we're proposing. A lot of that lawn now, that manicure
Yeah.
lawn that runs off untreated, is being taken up by the pool and patios,
Okay,
which are now getting captured and being infiltrated and being
Okay.
treated.
okay.
So we're reducing a lot of that lawn area that
Right,
was being
okay, so the
untreated as well.
runoff is going in
So
there
it's
and
very
then,
limited lawn
Okay.
now that's actually running off.
Oh, okay, right, and I just wanted to know if we could have some specifics on, because usually when we talk about pools and pool fences, we usually get like some specifics on what the fences, you know, the specifics of the fence, but since this isn't really, it's in the upland review and not really.
What's an upland review right there, but you
There'll be
know,
some kind of board-on-board
Board on
fence.
board.
It needs to be
Yeah.
for screening purposes
Yeah,
from a zoning
okay.
perspective.
So-
So it won't be chain
requirements.
link, it won't be a deer fence, it'll be some type of solid,
Okay, okay,
either wood or vinyl, I don't, we haven't decided yet, but it'll be some type of
okay.
screening fence.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. There will be less runoff with the pool cover than there would be with the grass that was there before?
So in terms
Where does
of
the
what
water
was,
go?
what was running off previously, was this whole lawn area was running off to the east, untreated into the wetland system.
Uh-huh,
All this manicured lawn.
uh-huh.
Now we're putting in all this drainage to
Yeah.
capture all this
I
new
see.
They're
It's going
impervious
into the
Channel
system.
drain.
and
Okay,
putting
got
it
it.
underground, which then infiltrates and
Okay,
treats
that's
the
all
water.
going now into the.
Correct,
got
so a
it.
lot of that. But then, yes, we did add those shrubs as you guys requested along that eastern boundary for that smaller lawn area now.
Okay, yeah, I thought the ground cover idea would look nice there too. But yeah, I also agree that bolstering up the plant size and the planting plan in general, because, you know, removing 11 trees when there's only 17 trees on the property, just seems like a lot.
In terms of trees, we're replanting 16
Small.
arborvitae
ones.
here.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, those green giant screen type more for that.
We don't
And then
like
we add the shrubbery here.
Um,
But again, the upland review area basically just clips this corner.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know? And honestly, if we were able to get access to that property and flag the wetlands, if you look on the wetlands map, the wetland line goes through the middle of that house.
Yep.
So obviously it's not accurate. We're just taking it from the town's GIS maps because we don't have access to actually go
yeah,
on that property and flag it. If I had to take a guess, the upland review area probably doesn't even encroach on this property based on the topography and that. But we can't make those assumptions, so we just go on what the town information that we have.
And my other, just quick little pet peeve, I like the form for the stormwater inspections, but required, not recommend, as the wording would be preferable.
Okay.
So not recommending what they do, but requiring them to do it. for
Sure.
Accountability.
On the operation and
This-
maintenance, you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Got it.
Storm,
Yeah, I
yeah,
like
operation, yeah.
That's it, okay.
There's one other thing I wanted to just add to the record, is they did an review of the wall too, and found it to be in good condition, and have certified, the engineer has certified that what they're doing here is not gonna adversely impact the wall, which is,
Good.
when you're that close with, especially with excavation and
Right.
whatever
Machinery,
forces.
oops, yeah.
So, just want to add that to the record.
So
too.
would this be one where we might want to consider, I'm just putting a question out there, consider that extra layer of check for the planting plans? Or just since it's trees and, like, because, you know, we're concerned that the trees are small, we're going to get bigger ones, we're concerned about their survival. Is this something that we wanna say, okay, you know, a year later they'll provide us with something? Or is it not to that scale? I'm just putting it out there as a question, since we talked about it last.
Bill?
Ken, I mean, if we're gonna, I don't see it as a critical one as much,
Yeah.
because I think he's got a point. If they look at this every year to see which areas should be in the wetland area and which ones aren't, I have a feeling this one will be knocked out.
Yeah, I'd agree. So normally, if this was a larger area and let's say more critical to the wetlands and water courses, I would agree with you. But he makes an excellent point.
Yeah.
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 Okay,
I
he makes an
agree.
excellent
That's
point,
fair.
and so one of the few times I've been convinced by it.
We're gonna hire.
So, okay. Rick, do you want to write up a resolution for next meeting? And then-
Thank you.
Thank you very much for a good presentation. Okay, moving on, approval of minutes. The commission members have The minutes for December 6th, 2023. I'm sure Mr. Millard has sent you his
Yes.
comments. I'm sure
It wasn't that many, actually.
you know.
No.
So,
It's a new year.
anybody have questions and comments on this one? No?
I mean, I had one little.
Yes, I haven't done that one yet, but I will make that
Okay.
minor correction.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting on December sixth, 2023.
I will second the motion to approve the minutes from the December 6th meeting.
Great, all in favor? Thank you very much. There are no agent approvals, there's no other business. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn our meeting of January 3rd, 2024.
Second that?
All in favor? Thank you, Channel 79. Good night, everybody.